Hi, this is Sam Botstein for TraktorSkills.com. Today we're going to talk about harmonic mixing in Traktor Pro. Harmonic mixing is mixing where the tracks share compatible keys. This is a very good idea because mixing tracks together that don't share compatible keys will often result in horrible key clashing from the bass, melody, or really any harmonic components. Now, in order to mix harmonically, in order to do this, we need two very important pieces of information. We need to know the keys of all of our tracks, and we need to know which keys are compatible with which other keys. Now, Traktor really has us covered on this first part. With the keylock feature here, we can actually keep our tracks in a given key even when we move around the pitch fader on our turntables or CDJs or controllers in order to beat match them with other tracks. Traktor also now features a key detection algorithm. This is extremely useful because previously DJs either had to rely on their ears, break out a musical keyboard like a piano, or use a separate detection software like Mix and Key. However, Traktor Pro can now detect the keys of your tracks, like it's done here, with a pretty good degree of accuracy. Now, what about the second piece of information? Which keys can I mix together? Well, I would refer to the circle of fourths, or if you're a DJ, you're probably more familiar with this, the Camelot Wheel. Essentially, the Camelot Wheel is the circle of fourths with these numbers superimposed on it and colorized. I'm going to use the musical keys listed here in all of my tutorials, including this one, because if I were given the choice to teach people these musical keys or the Camelot system, I would teach the musical keys every time because they're useful for a lot of different situations where these Camelot numbers are really only useful for people who use OpenKey and Traktor or the Mix and Key software. You can view either in Traktor by pressing the little gear icon for the preferences, going to Analyze Options, and then under Musical Key, under Displayed in Traktor, you can switch from Musical to OpenKey. You can see that changed here, and back. Now, the wheel essentially lets us know which keys are compatible with which other keys. So we're going to start out in A minor. Now from A minor, you can mix back to A minor, you can mix to E minor, or you can mix to D minor. Or you can go to C major. They call this a special effect on harmonicmixing.com. I would just really describe it as going from the relative minor to the relative major, or vice versa, the relative major to the relative minor. So basically, if you're given a certain space on the wheel, you can go either clockwise, counterclockwise, or from the inner part of the wheel to the outer part of the wheel, or the outer part of the wheel to the inner part of the wheel. It's pretty simple stuff. This becomes second nature after you've done it a couple of times. So first we're going to show you the most obvious one. We're going to go from A minor to A minor. Now, here I'm using these little mini waveforms to see the structure of the track. Now these are both electro house tracks, so we can pretty much count on an 8-bar introduction. See, there you go. And we can basically count on this last little part being 8 bars as well. And if you're listening, I wish you didn't have to see the word bars all the time because the numbers disappear at the edge there, but I'll prove it to you. We're going to go to 32 beats. We're going to beat jump 32 beats. 32 beats divided by 4 beats in a bar would be 8 bars. So there you go. So we're phrase matching and we're mixing harmonically. It should be great. These tracks are basically pre-beat matched in that they're both 128, so it's really releasing the record and getting it in phase as quickly as possible, or using sync, but I'm not going to do that right here. So here we go. Here's our first example. We're going to mix in key from A minor back to A minor. So I didn't even really move any faders or any filters or use any effects or do any kind of transitional work there, being that the phrases just worked really well together and the keys worked well together. Now you might be thinking, big deal, it didn't really sound like you did anything, but this actually means quite a lot. So let's say that we were just going to put one of these out of key. So this first track actually has really a lot of harmonic stuff going. And this one is basically just a constant A minor happening. So you'll hear how badly it clashes if I pitch out this from A minor to, I guess that would be B minor. And here we go. Here's what that would be like. So this sounds not good, but if we put it back to the key it should have been in. So you can hear that mixing from one key to the same key works and is a great idea. But what if we went from a given key to some other key? I'm going to go to E minor, which is one of the 4 options, the other being to A minor again, to C major, or to D minor. Now, interestingly, I know that I want to play this This Means War track coming up, so going to Signal is a way to get there. Going from A minor to B minor is probably not a great idea, but we can go through E minor to get there. So again, if we look back at the wheel, I want to go from here to here, and I can do that by going through here. Pretty simple stuff. So the thing about this transition is this is a very typical electro house track. Just by looking at the little mini waveform here, we can see that we've got like 8 bars of one thing, 8 bars of another thing. And because we know electro house, without even having heard this, I can probably guess that we have some sort of filtered thing at the beginning. That's what that waveform looks like to me. Then we have the beat come in and then the drop. Okay, so I know that I want to mix out right here. I actually have just 8 bars to do the transition. So we're going to start just a little bit before that, and I will show you this transition. We're going to go from A minor to E minor. So there you go. We went from A minor to E minor. Now we're actually going to go to B minor. Let's do that now. So we had this Signal track. Now we're going to have this Means War track. So this will be a little different, but I want to actually hear the outset of this. And I know that the track on the left actually has some vocal stuff going on at this second to last key point here. So here we go. We're going to go from E minor to B minor. And once again, I'm going to do a very limited sort of job on the faders and the filter in order to allow us to really hear the harmonic mixing happen as opposed to some effect or something. So listen for that, and here we go. So as you can see, that was a pretty quick way to get from A minor to B minor through E minor. Now we're going to go this time a different direction. We're going to go from Signal again. We're going to go from E minor this time to G major. So here's what that might be like. Now we're going to actually use a different mix-in point because here the beginning of Bass Don't Cry is going to work with the end of Signal. They're not going to really clash badly at all. So let's do that now. that was pretty simple. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to take a look at turning key lock off in order to achieve a different key based on the pitch difference. So here we're going to actually mix from A minor to B minor, which is not what we did before. Before we couldn't do that because we had similar tempos and we wanted to go from A minor to B minor, we went through E minor. This time we're actually going to do that all within just the actual regular way it would happen on a turntable. So to demonstrate what this is like, I have this loop set up. So I'm going to pitch this quite a ways up. I'm going to pitch it up to where it would be at about 140, and then I'm going to demonstrate the difference here. So I've actually pitched up both the Scream track and this Kid Cudi remix. So what's actually going to happen here is because I have the key lock off, we're going to hear things a note up. And I'll show you that right now. So I'm actually going to mix this out right when we get to this sort of drum thing that goes on for a while. And you might think, well, if you're just going to mix over drums, then you could probably mix from any key to any key. And I say the A. This is what it would be like if I tried to do that. Essentially, just the really abrupt change from A minor to B minor is going to be enough to make it really weird. So now we're going to try it with key lock off, and the difference in pitch is actually going to be enough to put us into B minor on the left deck from its original key of A minor, which is going to mix perfectly with the B minor of the Scream track. So that went really well. One thing I want to mention about tracks that have this outro like this, where we're just hearing a kind of drum kind of thing, is that it's fun to play with the faders, especially when the incoming track only has like hi-hats or something going on like we have here.
Take that bag with your clothes and leave your key.
Hear how there are just hi-hats?
'Cause she never wants to see you no more. Never should've listened to the serpent. You shot yourself in the foot again. Take that sad little face and leave your pride at the door. 'Cause you're never gonna touch it no more. Never should've listened to the serpent. You shot yourself in the foot again.
So this is something that you can try out. Harmonic mixing really isn't all that hard, and with just a little bit of practice, you can really cross this threshold and bring your mixes all to a next level using this one simple technique.